Welcome back to Split Decision. This week on episode 25, we're going to recap UFC Austin, Beneil Dariush versus Arman Tsarukyan from this past weekend. From there, we're going to draft our top 5 Christmas movies. Next, we'll preview UFC Vegas 83, Song Yadong versus Chris Gutierrez. Then we'll huddle up for the biggest rivalry in college football, Army versus Navy, and Week 14 of the NFL. And finally, we'll jump back into Stakes and Takes, our betting segment where we give you our best advice for this week's games. But first, don't forget to like and subscribe and head to splitdecisionpod.com where you'll find all our recent episodes, podcasts, top 5s, and more. Again, that's splitdecisionpod.com. All right, let's go.
All right, so going in, we thought UFC Austin might be the best fight night card of the year.
I think it might have been.
And I think it lived up to the hype.
That was a pretty crazy fight card that we just witnessed.
Both the prelims, which there were people on Twitter literally saying, was this the best prelim card ever?
Dude, I was sitting in my office at work watching the prelims, and I was hyped.
And then the main card, which we're going to cover, lived up to the hype. Every fight was exciting. Especially the three or four big fights that we had, they lived up to the hype. Exciting things happened, and we're gonna start with the main event: Beneil Dariush, Arman Tsarukyan. And this one, we came in saying, can Tsarukyan step up his game against a legitimate contender, the number 5 guy, Beneil Dariush? And not only did he step up his game, he knocked him out cold in the first round.
Yeah, it was 1 minute and 4 seconds in the very first round. A little bit of back and forth. I think there was less than 40 strikes total thrown, but like 10 landed. Arman Tsarukyan showed his power, showed his strength, showed exactly what he was planning on coming to do to the lightweight division. And I think that's exactly what we get to see here from now on, is a young guy in the top 5. He deserves that place. I don't know who he fights next, but it was a great showing. Not much to report, not much to cover on the fight other than,
I mean, what had happened in under 2 minutes, and I mean, it looked like he hit him with a knee, and that's what did it. But when they slowed it down, he barely hit Beneil with a knee, but Beneil did not see the hook coming,
and it hit
him right on the chin
at the same time.
Commentators even said it was before his knee, the foot that he threw the knee on touched the ground.
Right,
he knocked him out with his hand.
He generated
and
that much power.
And then got a few good shots on the ground. Beneil stayed on the ground for a long time. I think Arman, outside chance his next fight is a title shot. Like, it wouldn't be out of the question. But I think he probably has one more fight. Question is who? Because he beat number 5 guy, Beneil. He was number 5, right?
Yeah, Beneil was number 5 because Chandler's...
Any of the top 4...
Beneil was 4 because Chandler's 5.
Any of the top 4 is hard to get a fight with right now, just because they're either vets like Gaethje and
right. I mean, the top
Poirier,
5 consist
and they're not
of...
going to fight a guy like Arman unless it's for the belt, or it's Islam. Who's he going to fight next?
Oliveira.
That's supposed to be the next fight.
Michael
Chandler's supposed to fight
Conor McGregor.
So it will be interesting. He might have to... He doesn't seem like the type of guy to me that's going to take a lower opponent after this.
Is he automatically just the new gatekeeper of the lightweight division?
No, because I think a gatekeeper you've had to have already tried for
the title. Or is it Jalen Turner? Jalen Turner got but a quick victory over Bobby Green in the lightweight division. So
yeah, but Jalen, I don't know if he's up there yet. Arman, I think he's sniffing a title shot. Not saying it's next, but it's coming in the future, especially one more win.
One more win, I think, would jump him in front of another guy, because the other guys are content waiting for a title shot. They kind of done what they needed to do to deserve it in their minds, so they're okay kind of sitting around waiting, for that title shot to present itself to them.
And jumping to the co-main, you just mentioned it. Jalen Turner, Bobby Green, a lot like the first fight we just covered, the main event. Jalen Turner caught Bobby Green in the first round, got the knockout.
3 knockouts, if you
ask me. I think this might be, Dana White said it, I saw it all over Twitter as well, might be one of the worst stoppages in UFC history we've ever seen. Not because it was too early, like is usually the case. as you said, Bobby Green might have got knocked out 3 different times in this sequence.
Before all that,
It could have been stopped 15 seconds before it got stopped.
It
would have
very
been
well
legitimate.
could have. But before the rock or the stoppage or the knock, anything like that, it was a good start to the round by both fighters. They decided not to touch gloves. It looked like it was going to be a striking forward match. Both guys with length, kind of keeping each other at bay. They're both crafty vets.
Bobby Green
in the
has
UFC.
length for 155, but
Jalen Turner
6'3".
Exactly.
You're not going to outlength him.
Bobby Green just got caught. That simple as it was, he kind of got caught and had that delayed
He got hit on the back of the head, got the wobble. He couldn't even. He tried to throw a punch and was like, "Oh, he's fucked up."
Right. And as soon as that happened, Jalen Turner smelled the blood and attacked, dropped him immediately, and
he looked like a dead
said,
body out there.
Ground and pound for a solid 15 seconds.
I mean, he took some
brutal,
unnecessary shots to the head.
Brutal, unnecessary shots to the head.
The ref fucked up. He even admitted it after, and he was upset about it, Dana White said.
So, question for you. I know this loss, a quick loss like this to a talented person like Jalen Turner doesn't take a lot away from Bobby Green.
Yeah, but
we're
Bobby
not
Green
worried
was
about
never
him.
a contender in this division.
And we're also not worried about him today because he lost. We're talking about Jalen Turner. He got called out by Renato Moicano. I don't think he wants that fight. Other people
Jalen Turner's
around,
number 9.
Right. Other people around his ranking would be somebody like Benoit Saint Denis, who
I don't think anybody wants to fight Benoit Saint Denis right now.
Right. I think Benoit Saint Denis is actually ranked 10th at the moment, so that could be a matchup to make.
You got to give Jalen credit. He took this on short notice. He showed he's willing to fight anybody, kind of,
and knocked him out cold.
Yeah, so
3 times.
He showed he's willing to fight. So I don't want to say,
or maybe
he doesn't want to fight Benoit, but I don't know if he's taking that.
Grant Dawson off a loss. Bobby Green lost to Grant Dawson.
After a win like this, I think he's going to try to go for somebody higher ranked than him.
Or maybe a Drew Dober who's off a win. Any of those guys.
He's
in
got
my
some
opinion.
options.
I think, Jalen Turner in the lightweight, not quite like we said, ready for a top 5 opponent, but definitely top 15. I think he's ready to take that next step. He's ranked 9 in his own right by beating Bobby Green. Give him a test. Don't put him up against a heavy wrestler. Put him up somebody with a mixed bag. Make him fight for it. Make him work.
All right, so the next fight we're going to look at, while the first 2 had crazy knockouts and maybe were the best knockouts of the night, this might have been the fight of the night and most impressive showing of the night. Rob Font versus Davidson Figueiredo. Figueiredo moving up to 135. He was a killer at 125. He moved up to 135, and he kind of schooled Rob Font.
Yeah, dude, 4 out of 7 takedowns. Very, very impressive.
He was faster than Rob Font. He looked like his punches were hurting him. Were hurting Rob Font more than Rob Font's punches were hurting him. It was a unanimous decision win for Figueiredo. He won all 3 rounds, I think. I think even the judges had it that way.
Yeah, that's what I saw. 29-27 or 29-28 unanimous for Figueiredo on all 3 scorecards. I didn't know what to expect coming into the fight. Just, moving up in a weight class, you don't know if the power is going to translate.
That was the question. And he proved he's right up there with because Rob Font's a good fighter. I think he was number 7.
In the bantamweight division especially, Rob Font held his own. He's fought, contended top 10. I think he was ranked 11th at the moment.
But that's tough. He's now 1-4 in his last 5. All 4 of his losses are against killers.
But it doesn't take away the truth. It's 1-4 in your last 5.
But I think Figueiredo is automatically moves up to a contender in this division.
I agree. He rallied
especially
late.
As a former champ.
Right. He rallied late, but it really showed that a 3-round fight, and it showed this for Font as well, but it showed that a 3-round fight for these type of guys, it doesn't really matter to them. They can go 5 rounds at any given point. They have the gas for it. So I think Figueiredo winning in the fashion that he did kind of sets him up to at least headline, a fight night in the future, so he can have that 5-round test to see if he can take it at bantamweight with that extra weight. Convert that power more, maybe get some more wrestling on the bags and see if he can go for a title shot in the future.
Yeah, I think regardless, he's probably a win away from being a legit, he should fight for the title next at 135.
And dude, it's starting to seem like every division in the UFC this past year, 2023 is almost in the bag. So every division the UFC has just started to kind of blow up. Everything's getting heated. Heavyweights stacked.
There's not a lot of dominant champs right now.
Right, and everybody's in contention.
Belts are changing a lot right now.
And it's exciting. The next one, we have Sean Brady versus Kelvin Gastelum.
This was unfortunately maybe the most predictable fight of the card, and I like Kevin Gastelum.
We think he has the most raw talent. He just comes in with.
But this time he came in. He was in shape.
I was gonna say with the most unfortunate circumstances.
But
you
man,
know,
Sean Brady
just
walked forward.
yeah,
On the ground.
Walked forward and just dominated. That was exactly what I was gonna say. Dominated him on the ground.
It was one of those where you gotta think, if you put yourself in Kevin Gastelum's shoes, he's got to be thinking like, "What the fuck am I doing out here?" Because he could not compete on the ground. It wasn't just that Sean Brady like kind of beat him on the ground. Sean Brady schooled him on the ground and made him look like he didn't know what to do. Like he didn't know what he was doing out there.
Right, and Gastelum has a wrestling background.
He was the Arizona State high school champ. They said it during the broadcast, and it was
right.
Like Sean Brady was making him.
Now the only thing I really had to question coming into this fight was after Sean Brady's loss, dropping to 15-1. How do you respond to that? Well, he kind of showed you that, and he showed you during the fight, but then he also told you after the fight. He's coming in. He's going to start submitting people. He's going to start doing what he does. He's not worried about, what anybody wants him to fight like.
Yeah, because they were booing him, and it was like...
He's like, no, I don't care. I'm coming out, fight like me. That's why I got signed to the UFC.
So I was 15-0 before my last fight.
Right, coming out to do things like I'm not used to doing. Stick to the game plan. You get 15 victories in a row. I think now, being 16-1... he's going to stick to that word. I think he's going to continue to just submit people.
All right, the next fight, Clay Guida, the vet. I think he's 41, 42 years old.
He turns 42 in like 3 days on December 8th.
Taking on Joaquim Silva. Is that his first name?
Joaquim Silva. Or they call him Joaquim. Joaquim Silva.
Joaquim Silva. This was a fight. It was a fun fight to watch. Silva kind of beat Clay Guida up in the first round. Clay Guida showed his toughness, took the second round, and then it came down to the third round where I think Silva was just a little bit better. But Clay Guida, he didn't show, despite being that old, the age thing, he didn't show his age in this fight.
Yeah, I mean, he did get damaged. He got, I wouldn't say, heavily rocked. Well, I mean, he did get rocked once.
He kind of got heavily rocked once.
But... he recovered well, and he recovered quick. At 41 years old.
He recovered and then won the next round.
Right. I mean, Silva has a striking power to knock anybody out, but he couldn't put away Guida. Guida is, as always, the typical aggressor that we've always seen.
They say the chin's the first to go. Like, if you're a vet, that's like the old saying, and obviously his chin is not gone.
No, I mean, if that's the first to go, he's got 3-4 more years at least. Yeah. It's crazy. Clay Guida did great in this fight. He pushed forward the entire time. It just wasn't enough for Joaquim Silva. It was a striking masterclass, in my opinion. He dodged. He didn't get baited into Guida's attempts to kind of make a mistake, if you will. I don't know. He just did what he needed to do in every round. Even when he lost a round, the losing was like a last-ditch effort for Guida to win. So, with all that, I agreed with the unanimous decision, 29-28, I believe it was, on all the judges' scorecards.
Yeah, I think it was first round Silva, second round Guida, third round Silva.
Right, yeah. And then opening UFC Austin's main card, we had Beneil Dariush versus Dustin Stoltzfus. This was another interesting one. It was a upset. Opening card upset. I like these. A guy that doesn't normally get submission victories got a submission victory.
It was honestly, for Stoltzfus, this saved his UFC career getting this win.
It saved his career. It was two guys kind of, on different tracks. Or not really on different tracks, but it kind of decided what direction they were going, in a sense.
Well, I mean, Soriano came in 3-3 in the UFC. Stoltzfus 1-4. So Stoltzfus definitely needed this.
He needed the win more, for sure.
Soriano isn't looking pretty either, I mean, 3-4 in the UFC is not great to have either. But it was kind of two guys, who wants to stick around? Who's
yeah, who's got the more determination to stay in the UFC?
To turn their career around.
Stoltzfus showed his resilience in the fight. I'd say it's a good striking matchup in the first round. Both people got damaged early, but I think the damage kind of weared on Beneil in the first, carrying over to the second round, where he was able to or Stoltzfus was able to bring the fight to the ground and then get the submission, which, like I said, rare submission by Stoltzfus, but, he needed it. So
Yes, overall, a very good performance from him.
and very good fight card.
Very good fight card. I think we enjoyed this one. It was exciting. Every fight showed something a little different. And thank God, I mean, the crowd makes a difference too.
Yeah, having a big UFC crowd anywhere you go is...
Especially a place that doesn't get it a lot. Like,
Moody
Austin,
Center in Austin was electric. For the prelims, it was still full. It's great. And we only have one more fight night for the whole year, so that's exciting in its own right.
Okay, so let's jump to our top 5 this week.
Ooh,
this
I'm
week,
excited.
first week of December, in the Christmas spirit, this whole month we're going to be doing Christmas-themed top 5s. And the first one we're going to do is the top 5 Christmas movies. And I believe I have the first pick.
You do, sir.
So this is a tough one. There's a lot of good Christmas movies. Every list I saw and the movies on those lists that I've actually watched, there wasn't a bad one on there.
No, I as much as I
Most
didn't
Christmas
think,
movies are good.
I was going to say, as much as I didn't think I liked all these Christmas movies, when I was making my list, it was easy to fill up the list.
It was very easy.
Then it was
easy
hard
to
picking
I was
the
about
top.
to say.
Like normally it's easy to pick your top 5. It's like, oh, these are my easy top 5, and then these are like kind of leftovers. If you take one of my top 5, then I'll have this to kind of fill it in. This one was easy to fill up the list, hard to
narrow it down.
Right. Yeah. So I'm excited. It's a good one.
So the first pick is especially hard, but I think the first pick in the draft, 1-1, I got to go Elf.
Elf. Will Ferrell.
Zooey
Deschanel.
who is the dad?
Peter Dinklage is the midget.
Peter Dinklage is in it. There's a lot of famous people in it. I mean, for our generation,
Very good
people
movie.
born in the 90s, like, it was probably like the first Christmas movie that came out when we were kids that has stood the test of time.
It also did that thing at the beginning where...
Like, we saw this movie become a Christmas classic.
Yeah, we did. It did that thing at the beginning of it where it hit you with that, like, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer or Frosty the Snowman.
Then it
like,
got kind of real as that movie gets.
Right. It's like, whoa, it's fun. It was a different, new, fresh take when it came out.
And that was like right at the start of Will Ferrell's like run where he was just making banger after banger movie.
Right. Yeah, very, very good.
So Elf 1-1. You got your next 2 picks. What do you got?
So my number 1, you picking Elf, I think that was going to be either my 1-1 or my 1-2, knowing that I had, 2 picks back to back. My number 1, since you took that one off the board, it made it easy for me. I'm going to go with Home Alone.
Oh.
Big Christmas classic.
That was probably going to be my next pick.
My 8-year-old loves it. It's one of his favorite Christmas movies. It's a whole good Christmas franchise, but obviously, in my opinion, the original first one is, I watch it every year. I've already seen it a couple times this Christmas season.
It's a good movie.
But Home Alone's great. The McAllisters are awesome. Check out my bathroom at the current moment. It's decorated, slightly like that. Second pick, honestly, man, I think I'm going to go with The Grinch.
Which one?
So you want to be specific.
For The Grinch, I think we have to be.
Okay. So I'm going with one that more shaped my childhood than the current Grinch that's out there. I'm going with the Jim Carrey Grinch.
The Jim Carrey one. But
So
the only reason I asked that is because I wasn't even thinking the most current Grinch. I was thinking
the cartoon.
A cartoon Grinch.
Right, yeah. I enjoy the cartoon as well, and I enjoy the new live-action one with Benedict Cumberbatch. But I got to go with the one I preferred most as a kid because that's where Christmas... It's not the most important, but it means the most to you. It's where you get the most Christmas spirit from. So the one that shaped my childhood, Jim Carrey's Grinch.
That's a good pick. I think that's another one that was kind of our age. It was made when we were kids. And
It kind of made for us, made for our childhood.
It was a great movie. So
What
that
do you
was
have
your
for
number
your
2?
second?
My number 2, this is legitimately maybe like it's definitely in my top 5 of all-time favorite movies.
What?
The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, man.
It was my favorite movie as a kid. and I still love this movie. Jack Skellington mixes the Halloween with the Christmas, much like real life does. Like, you go from Halloween and kind of go to Christmas.
You forget about Thanksgiving.
They briefly go to Thanksgiving Town, or like pass by Thanksgiving Town in the movie too.
Really? Yeah, my kid.
There's like
could
a
tell you
door to
about
go to
that.
Thanksgiving
I
Town.
couldn't tell you anything.
Jack
about
Skellington, an all-time character. Tim Burton, all-time director. My number 2, Nightmare Before Christmas.
Dang, I don't even have that on my list.
I love that movie.
That's a solid second pick as well. It as you know, as much as you could think it's a Halloween movie, it does embody like the thought of it. I mean, it's kind of like it's a similar movie to The Grinch.
Exactly.
You know, where it's like the guy doesn't understand it and then he learns what it's about and he loves it. What's your third pick?
So my third pick, this is one that's always the one where they're like, did you know this is a Christmas movie? My number 3 is going to be Die Hard.
God damn it!
The first Die Hard is a great movie, it's a classic action film. It's Christmas, Bruce Willis at his finest.
Listen, as much as I'm happy...
It's one of the best franchises, like action franchises in American cinema history.
So I don't have many movies, like physical copies of movies anymore. I think in 2023 that's a dying thing. But there are 4 movie franchise where I have every hard copy. Die Hard is one of them. Since I was a kid, Die Hard has been one of my favorite movies. It was my next pick in this draft. Die Hard is a great Christmas movie. I was trying to kind of save it because I didn't know if you liked the movie. And
I love Die Hard.
I wasted John McClane.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Right, I wasted it. I won a competition in a work thing because of Die Hard as my Christmas thing one time. So,
well, you got the next 2 picks, so what you get?
I think for my next pick, I'm going to go with National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
I had that on my list. I mean, that's a classic Christmas movie.
Right. I think it's a very classic Christmas movie. From an early age, even when a kid doesn't understand all of the humor, there's humor for every generation.
It's one of those movies, you love it as a kid, you watch it again when you're a teenager, you understand more, you watch it again as an adult, then you get the whole movie. Right.
As you get older, the wiser you get, you kind of learn more about the movie as you grow up. It's great. It's one of those movies where it's multi-generational. It's a Christmas classic. And I think that leaves me with my second to last pick, which would be my 4th pick, right?
Correct.
Oh man, I think I got to go with A Christmas Story.
I had that. That was going to be my next one.
You
can't argue with a movie that on one channel every year they just play it for 24 hours.
Dude, they play it for longer than 24 hours, I'm pretty sure. I think they play it once or twice a day, every day through Christmas. But then you get it like 24 or 36 hours
Christmas
straight
Day.
on Christmas Day.
They just keep playing it.
Which, look, I respect, and they've even made like some shitty sequel since then, or maybe it's not a shitty sequel. It's not for me. I think Christmas Story, it's one of those Christmas classics where even if you're not a big fan of Christmas, you're not mad when that movie comes on. You got to sit through it once a year.
So that was your number 4,
right?
Correct? So I got my 4 and 5 next. My number 4, I'm going to go with a classic. I'm going to go with A Christmas Carol. Scrooge. Everybody knows the story of Scrooge. You might not know he's from this movie, but it's this movie where they bring him. He's a Scrooge.
You're talking about like the live action?
Correct.
Okay.
And they bring him through.
Nobody we know the name of's in the cast.
He's the Christmas Scrooge. He hates Christmas. He's a bad guy. Then he's brought to understand the true meaning of Christmas, which I'm beginning to understand is the plot, more or less, for every one of these Christmas movies, the traditional Christmas movies.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I think A Christmas Carol was the first one to use this plot, so I think that's why it's such a great pick. That's why it's my number 4 pick.
Now, does that mean Muppet Christmas Carol's off the list?
It is not. Neither is Scrooged.
That's on my list. I just don't know if it's going to be my last pick.
So that was my number 4, Christmas Carol. And then my number 5, I got a few ways to go, but I'm going to go.
But how are you going to go?
I'm going to go like off the beaten path.
I don't think you will.
I am. I'm going to go Batman Returns. Michael Keaton's second movie as Batman, Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman, Danny DeVito as the Penguin, set at Christmas. Another Tim Burton film.
I was gonna say it's your second Tim Burton movie on the list. That's
It's a
rare
great
that you have
movie.
a kind of a double dip, if you will.
It's a great movie, great plot. It's iconic. Michael Keaton, I Am Batman.
Yeah, no, it was kind of the first crazy Batman we got. You know, the first like kind of unhinged Batman, like willing to do anything Batman, and it was great.
Yeah, so that's my top 5. What's your number 5 pick?
My number 5 pick, I think I got to go with another. Man, I'm kind of torn here. I don't know if I want to go animated or live action, but I think I got to go with another Christmas classic, at least classic for my generation, classic for our generation. I got to go with the Santa Claus with Tim Allen.
I had that on my list. That was one I was debating picking.
I mean, they've gone to make several movies since. I think there's even a TV series now. It embodies the kind of the adulthood of that. I don't like Christmas anymore, but I got to get back into it because I got kids.
I mean, it's the exact plot we just have mentioned a lot.
Yeah, it's the best.
Grows to love Christmas.
You have to grow to love Christmas, and I'm already, I've kind of gone through the whole hate Christmas thing already, so I appreciate these types of movies even more now. I love Christmas again. I'm back in it, full swing. Santa Claus, full Christmas spirit. Let's go.
So my top 5 to recap: number 1, Elf; number 2, Nightmare Before Christmas; number 3, Die Hard; number 4, A Christmas Carol; and number 5, Batman Returns.
That's a good list, dude. That's not a miss on that list, but there is going to be requirements for the month of December. You are now required to watch all 5 of those movies.
I'll
Fair?
take that challenge.
All right. And for myself, I have Home Alone, Jim Carrey's Grinch, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, A Christmas Story, and The Santa Claus. All right, so to open up the final fight night of 2023, back in the Apex, we've got UFC Vegas 83. Kicking off the main card, we have Jung Young Park, the Iron Turtle, facing off against Andre Sergipano Muniz. Both fighters coming in here with a efficient wrestling background, also able to get it done on the feet. It's kind of not a toss-up victory here, but a toss-up for how the fight's going to go. Is it going to be a striking prominent, or is it going to be a wrestling, kind of grappling, close quarters prominent fight?
Two guys kind of going in the opposite direction. Park, 4 straight wins, 3 of those by sub. Those 3 straight wins by sub, actually. He's taking on Munoz, 2 straight losses.
Park only has 2 losses in the UFC as well.
Muniz. He also does. He started 5-0, and he's lost his last 2. So can he kind of right the ship, or has he kind of met his match in terms of potential? It'd be interesting to see.
After giving Park not 2 straight striking encounters, but 2, more striking forward guys in Dennis Tululin and Albert Duraev, they're giving him somebody who can, so at least more wrestling forward. So they're trying to kind of test his wrestling skills. I lean for this fight to be more of a striking mixed with the ground game.
The thing is, Park, he's more of the well-rounded guy. You say he kind of has it everywhere, a little bit everywhere, while Muniz is more focused on the ground. He's a grappler.
Right.
Like he's known as a grappler.
I'd be interested to see Park, take this fight to the ground and show Sergipano, Andre Muniz, what's going on with his skill there. I
think his best bet, to me, is to avoid the ground. Yeah, he does have a great ground game, but so does Muniz. I think Park can beat him on the feet, and I think Park beats him on the feet. That's why I'm picking Park in the fight.
I pick Park as well. My biggest thing here is in the last 2 fights, Muniz was out, or lost, I should say. The last 2 fights in the UFC, he lost, which were also his last 2 fights in the UFC. He was submitted by Brendan Allen, and he was knocked out by Paul Craig. Those are the last 2 fights.
That was the last, what was that, 2 weeks ago, the main event.
Right, that was the main event from 2 weeks ago. I'm thinking that Park, is going to be able to catapult himself off his last 2 wins and, like you said, get himself
last 4 wins. I think he's going to go to 5 straight wins after this. I think
get himself an on-the-feet victory I think there might be some moments on the ground, but I agree with you. I think we're going to go with a striking heavy matchup.
All right, so the next fight is the Moroccan Nasrat Hakparast taking on the Australian Jamie Mullarkey. Hakparast comes in 2 straight wins. His last win in September. Mullarkey, his last fight was also a win. He's 3-2 in his last 5. I think this is going to be a very interesting fight.
Yeah, I agree. Jamie Mullarkey, while they're both...
It's kind of the opposite of what we had last fight, where we had a ground guy taking on a well-rounded guy. This one, we have a well-rounded guy taking on a striker.
Right. Yeah, that was exactly what I was about to say. Jamie Mullarkey is well-rounded. You know, he has the ability to submit people if he needs to, knock you out. Obviously, I think kind of the style for almost every fighter in the UFC is they'd prefer to knock you out just because it's flashier, gets you those paydays, kind of, you know, keeps you in good graces of the UFC at any time. But Jamie Mullarkey can do it anyway. Nasrat Hakparast, he shows a lot of power. He finishes a lot of fights by decision as well, wins a lot of fights by decision.
Yeah, one interesting thing, he has knockouts, but his last 6 fights have all gone to the scorecard. He's 4-2 in those fights, so that's something to look out for.
Right, I have that written down as well. Mullarkey has been similar, but he has a TKO as well, kind of mixed in with those decision victories in his own stead. I think in this fight, you know, being not a toss-up on the cards, you know, it's a minus 200 money line to Nasrat Hakparast and a plus 170 to Jamie Mullarkey. I think with Jamie Mullarkey's well-rounded ability to kind of take people down, you know, strike you from any angle, submit you, kind of get you off your guard, I think Jamie Mullarkey's going to win this fight.
See, I'm going opposite. I think Hakparast gets the win. I think he just betters Mullarkey on the feet. He's only been subbed once, so it's not like he gets subbed all the time. I think he's going to have good enough defense where Mullarkey's ground game is going to be obsolete. It's going to come down to the feet. I think Hakparast gets the win, and I think it's probably another decision win for him.
So is this the first we're not agreeing on here?
I think that's the first pick. Well, yeah, it's only the second fight, so
not that's
that crazy.
True. Yeah, no kidding. Well, this should be a few then.
Way to tip our hand, Alex.
There we go. So the next fight we have is Su Mudaerji versus late notice replacement Tim Elliott. We were originally supposed to have Alan Nascimento. He's out. Tim Elliott stepping in.
Tim Elliott, short notice, as you said, he last fought in October too, and it was a loss. So it's like he's trying to bounce back in there.
He's got to bounce back. Look, he's 19-3 in his career. He started off
6-7 in the UFC though. So he's been real up and down.
Right. Real up and down. He needs to get back on track. He's got 3 KO victories, few submission victories. He's been winning by decision when he wins lately. It's not the best. Su is 2-3 in the UFC. Most recently, he lost to Matt Schnell. That was his...
He's 3-2 in the UFC.
That's what I meant.
He's
Sorry.
3 wins, 2 losses.
My dyslexia flipped that around on me. Matt Schnell was his recent loss in the UFC.
His last fight was a loss, yeah, to Schnell. As you said, he got choked out. One interesting thing, 3-2 in the UFC, 16-5 overall. Every single one of his losses has been by submission. So he's obviously, that's the weakness to go after if you're Tim Elliott.
In all honesty, that was the matchup that they were kind of setting up.
Yeah,
Nascimento had 14 submission victories coming into this fight.
Exactly. I actually had picked Nascimento. I did all the research. Then they did this late switch.
I know that's one of the not frustrating things with the UFC. It's the frustrating thing with fighting is, you know, accidents,
it's
injuries
such an
happen.
Intense sport where, like, yeah, injuries can literally
bodies give out, bro. It you know, we're gonna come back and fight again.
You had to train so hard to be
the best
shape and the best.
You're dehydrated. You're strained. You know, there's gonna be injuries. We'll be able to bet on Nascimento in the future. I agree, though. It was kind of a unfortunate occurrence.
But I think the late notice helps. How do you say his name? Mojarati, the
Mudaerji.
Mudaerji.
I'm gonna go with that.
Eagle.
Yeah. The Tibetan Eagle. There we go.
The Tibetan Eagle. I think this late notice switch definitely helps him. While Tim Elliott does have a ground game, it's nothing near Nascimento's. I think Mudaerji gets the win, and I think he might knock Tim Elliott out.
Look, I think Tim Elliott here is going to get the win. I don't know what the odds are currently, but I know Mudaerji was the underdog in the fight he was supposed to fight. I think giving him somebody like Tim Elliott who needs a win to really stay, you know, relevant in the UFC, I think Tim Elliott's going to get the win here.
All right, so now let's move on to the co-main event. Anthony Lionheart Smith taking on Khalil the Warhorse Roundtree. This is a matchup at 205. Khalil Roundtree comes in with 4 straight wins, his last one in August by TKO. 3 out of those 4 wins have been by TKO KO. So he's a guy on a roll. 8-5-1 in the UFC, and he's taking on Anthony Lionheart Smith, obviously a vet in the UFC. 3-2 in his last 5. He's 1-1 in 2023. Last fight was a win. I think this is a very, very interesting matchup.
It is a very interesting matchup. You have somebody with Anthony Smith who has knockout power when he needs to. You know, he's always moving, always striking. But he's also got 14 submission victories, meaning he can put you on the ground. He can kind of bend you at his will if you're inexperienced.
Anthony's a guy, he can win anyway, but he can also lose anyway.
Right. You know, he's been knocked out 10 times. He's been subbed 4 times. He's lost by decision 4 times. My biggest concern here with Khalil Roundtree is in a 3-round fight, if he doesn't knock out Anthony Smith, if Anthony Smith doesn't make a mistake, is he gassed? Is Anthony Smith, you know, kind of 2 minutes into the third round?
Say what you want about Anthony Smith. He's going to be there.
He will be there
round.
with the stamina.
You can beat the shit out of him, and he'll still be there.
Khalil Roundtree, he has a very heavy, very muscular build, where if he's throwing heat, throwing power the whole fight, you know, 10 minutes of just swinging those arms, not being able to knock you out, or a combination of not being able to knock Anthony Smith out and wearing Anthony Smith on his back for a large combination of the fight, is Anthony Smith going to be able to knock Khalil Roundtree out or finish him? I think the answer is maybe. I go with Anthony Smith for the victory.
So your answer is maybe. That's pretty decisive, Alex.
I choose Anthony Smith, so I'll say yes.
I'm going to go opposite of you on this one. So this
That's
is
like most of them.
Third in a row now, we're opposite.
Oh,
I'm going
no.
Khalil Roundtree. I think Roundtree, although he isn't known, obviously he has no submission wins. He's only been submitted once, though. So I don't think Anthony Smith is going to be able to just dominate him on the ground. I think Khalil Roundtree beats him on the feet, and I think it's going to be a TKO, probably first, second round for Roundtree.
Okay. So look, now the main event, we have Song, the Kung Fu Kid Yadong, taking on Chris El Guapo Gutierrez in what I envision to be a leg kick main event from Chris Gutierrez. I know I've said it before.
I mean, these are 2 elite strikers. 2 elite striking dudes.
Elite strikers, you're going to get a lot of output here. You know, it's not all going to be high damage, but there's going to be a lot of strikes connect. Yeah, it's gonna be very, very heavy output. Minus 400 money line favorite for Song Yadong.
Which I'm surprised because both guys come in 4-1 in their last 5.
Right.
Both guys won their last fight. Song Yadong, his only loss in those 5 is to Corey Sandhagen, 9-2-1 in the UFC. Chris Gutierrez, his only loss was to Pedro Munoz. He's 8-2-1 in the UFC. So these guys, on paper, they look pretty comparable and looks like it's going to be a great matchup. And as you said, both high output guys. That's why I'm kind of questioning this minus 400 line. That's kind of crazy.
I think the sheer difference here is going to be that you're going to see...
Yadong has the power.
I was going to say the difference in power with Yadong to where Chris Gutierrez will touch you 100% of the time throughout the fight. You're going to get the strikes through. He's going to get the points on the scorecard. That's why he has, 10 decision victories. You're going to get a bunch of touches from Chris Gutierrez. But with Song Yadong, you've got the 9, KOs with 8 decisions. It's still a lot of decisions, but you mix in a couple submissions there. It kind of keeps the other guy guessing. I think Song Yadong with the extra power, he's going to be more precise, ready to go in there, and I think he will get the victory. And I don't think the fight will go the decision on this one.
I got Song Yadong too, the Kung Fu Kid, 26-year-old Chinese guy. I think he gets the win, and I kind of agree with you. I have an inkling that this is going to be a finish for him. Damn. Sit. Hut. Let's jump into football, and we're going to start with the biggest college rivalry game in college football history. Still the biggest rivalry game after all these years. It's the Army-Navy game. It's so big they give it its own weekend. Both teams come in 5-6.
Does the 6th win matter for either team? Because
The 6th win makes you bowl eligible.
that's what I was wondering. I'm just learning that matters, but you can be snubbed from the college football playoffs for no reason.
And I don't think either team's going to a bowl game. They might be. I didn't look at all the bowls yet, but it doesn't matter. It's one of those games. Like this is
pride.
their Super Bowl.
This
is the game of the year for both teams.
Talking shit for the whole next year.
This is Army Navy. Army has won 5 out of 7 in this rivalry, which is a good run for them because before that, 14 straight wins for Navy.
Yeah, Army, their quarterback. What is his name? It's Bryson Daly. He's obviously their leading passer, but he's also their leading rusher.
Yeah, Army does not pass the ball a lot. Neither of these teams pass the ball. It's going to be a running game. Yeah,
dude, I was looking online, kind of doing my research for everything, and they said this was abysmal offenses for both teams. You know, just not great football teams, you know, as far as like college football, you know, the scale of college football is concerned. But Bryson Daly's the leading rusher. It looks like they've had like a carousel starting quarterbacks for Navy so far, but it looks like Ty, I don't know how to say his last name, Lavonte. He's one of the, sounds Hawaiian, starter for Navy. Like I said, both teams have had poor offenses throughout the season. It's an over-under of 28 points. Who do you think is going to win the game?
I think it's going to be a close game as usual. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. The game is in Foxborough. It's always at a neutral site.
Do you think the under is going to hit?
What's the over-under?
Over-under 28.
It's very possible.
That's crazy.
I'm thinking like a 17-10 game. I got Army winning the game. I think they figure out a way to edge out Navy. I think they continue their good fortune in this. I got the Army Black Knights beating the midshipmen of Navy.
I think the Black Knights, I agree. I think the Black Knights are going to edge the Seamen.
All right. So now we're going to move on to the NFL after we covered the one college football game of the week. First game we're going to look at NFC North matchup, the 9-3 Detroit Lions heading to Chicago, the 4-8 Bears. Lions come in -3 favorites in Chicago.
Yeah, I guess that's just because divisional games are always tough. You're going to play, you know, to your rivals.
Well, the Lions, they're a team. They're 9-3, but like they've had some stinkers out there. Like they could easily lose this game. So I think that's part of it. They're kind of unpredictable how they're going to play.
They are. They've come a long way since last season where they were kind of a surprise good team. They've been another surprise good team this season, but a more consistent surprise. You know, kind of a almost we could lean on them all season. But
I mean, they're one of the best teams in the NFC, 9-3 record, and both teams coming off of a win. But I think the Lions going to Chicago. I think the Lions get a dub.
I agree. I think the Lions win. They're 5th in points scored in the entire NFL. That obviously leads, you know, to their 9-3 record, but it doesn't go to say that their defense is just allowing anybody to score on them. They've done a lot to, you know, maintain the points scored against them, middling in that column, but with how good their offense has been at times, you know, they've been able to win. I agree. I think the Lions are going to win, and I think, you know, they're going to move to 10-3 for that'll probably be the first time ever.
Not ever.
Pretty close.
In a long time. So now let's move to the next game. It's going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars, 8-4, the NFC South leaders, heading to Cleveland to take on the 7-5 Browns. Browns come in -2 favorites. Big question, is Trevor Lawrence going to be ready to play in this game? High ankle sprain. Questionable.
Yeah, look, the Bengals,
as of this point.
The Bengals with Jake Browning, is that his name?
Correct.
They were able to beat the Jaguars. I'll say because Trevor Lawrence wasn't able to come back. You know, if Trevor Lawrence was on the field, I think...
Well, I mean, he's questionable. There's a very good chance he plays in this game.
Well, I'm saying I think if Trevor Lawrence was able to have come back and played against, you know, the rest of the game against the Bengals, I think there's a good chance the Bengals would have lost that game being on the backup. But if you go to a backup situation like you could go to with the...
Browning played his ass off last night, though.
He did. You go to a backup situation with the Jaguars and the Browns, I don't know. High ankle sprain, Trevor Lawrence being questionable. I don't think he's the Aaron Rodgers type, you know, or the Patrick Mahomes type where he suits up next week. they need him to kind of rest and be as close to possible as he can. Christian Kirk's also out. He has to have core surgery. He tore his core in a non-contact pass yesterday, which is brutal. So he has to have surgery. So they're down bad. This might just be the end of their season, with
not even close. They're 8-4 and they're leading a shitty division.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean they're going to win a Super Bowl.
End of their season, might play. Their quarterback might play.
I don't think he's going to play. I don't think he's going to play.
College football playoff committee just fuck you. Your quarterback's kind of hurt.
Yep, clip him. He's done. You got to clip them all. They're done.
So you're picking the Browns in this?
I think
that was a long. Like how long does it take you to say you're picking the Browns?
And with Flacco getting the nod, I picked the Browns.
I'm picking the Jags. I think they come in and get the dub. I believe in the Jaguars. Best team in the NFC South. Speaking of NFC South, let's move on to the next game. The other best team in the NFC South, fuck the Indianapolis Colts, is the Houston Texans. 6.5-point favorites at the New York Jets. Texans come in 7-5. Jets 4-8. Jets have lost 5 straight.
Jets in 4-8. That's impressively bad.
Texans have won 4 out of 5, including their last game over the streaking Denver Broncos. I think the Texans are just going to be too much for the Jets to handle. Jets have a great defense.
But who's starting for the quarterback?
They said they wanted to start Zach Wilson again.
And he was reluctant?
Reluctant to, how bad would Zach Wilson's like, nah, fuck this.
Okay, so listen, you got to hear me out on that. If you're healthy, right? You're listed as the backup to Aaron Rodgers coming into the season. You're losing to the Bills. They're not a bad team.
They beat the Bills first game of the year.
Right, but I'm saying this past week, you're losing to the Bills 32-6. Or they lost to the Bills 32-6, right?
No, this past week they lost to the Atlanta Falcons 13-8.
Jeez, I forgot about that one. You're right. So, if you're asking, you're benching Zach Wilson as the emergency third. He's inactive. He's the emergency quarterback, and there's 2 guys in front of him, and then you're asking him to come in. I'm good. You can have this shit show.
No, because that kind of kills. If
he's
to go
done
in, that kills your
that
career.
Squad anyway.
Nah, it's still a bad look.
It's a bad look. He had redeeming qualities at the beginning of the season, but I think he's kind of done with that whole system. Just in his mind,
I think he's done in the NFL.
In his mind, I'm sure he feels like he's being used, but that's kind of what a quarterback has to do sometimes is come in.
He's doing his
job.
Daily job. Shut the fuck up and go out there and play.
Yeah, you're getting paid millions of dollars to go out there and have fun or lose, whatever.
Yes, I got the Texans.
The Texans are going to win as well. Yeah.
All right, next game. Another streaking team that's won 3 in a row, the Los Angeles Rams, back into the playoff conversation. 6-6, going into quietly the most impressive team this year. Nobody's even talking about them. The 9-3 Ravens.
Yeah, the Rams, I looked it up today. They are middling in almost every category.
Yeah, but the last 2 weeks they've dominated.
Last 2 weeks
barely beat Seattle. Then the last 2 weeks they've dominated bad teams. So we'll see how they do.
13th in points scored and 14th in points allowed. So
hey, it's about winning games.
Right.
Ravens, as we said, 9-3, 7-point favorites. They've won 4 out of 5, 2 in a row. Can the Ravens continue it, get their 10th win in a row?
I think
Try
so.
To lock up and take a hold of that first round bye in the AFC. I think they do. I think the Ravens get the dub.
68.3% is Lamar Jackson's completion ratio. That's the highest he's been as a starter or in his career in the NFL. I think that, him running less, he's lost the ball a little bit more, running this season, but he's been more efficient. They have more points per game. I think the Ravens win the game. I think you're right. Next is going to be the Vikings, also 6-6.
Probably the worst game we're going to cover this week.
Versus the Raiders, 5-7. And honestly, the only reason we're covering it is because there's no more college football to cover.
Raiders 2.5-point favorites at home.
We have Josh Dobbs versus Aiden McDowell.
Josh Dobbs' stock dropped so much after the 12-10 loss to the Chicago Bears last
Alopecia
week.
King turned into Jada Pinkett Smith, and I couldn't care any less. He threw 4 interceptions last week.
And the Raiders last week jumped up 14-0. Not last week, their last game. So 2 weeks ago.
Right, they had a
against
bye.
the Chiefs. They jumped up 14-0. Everybody's like, what the fuck's wrong with the Chiefs? Chiefs ended up winning that game 31-17. Where's this Raider team go? We don't know. They've lost 2 in a row.
I
I think it's going to be an interesting
That's
game.
solid.
Though. Who?
I said I like your rhymes. That's solid.
I didn't even know I rhymed.
Good job.
You. I think the Raiders figure it out. I think these are both teams that they're not going to do anything. I don't think either one's a playoff team. I think simply because the Raiders are at home, Vikings have a meddling offense. I think the Raiders figure out a way to get it done. Close game, taking Vegas.
I would agree with you if not for the fact that Justin Jefferson was intentionally activated off of injury reserve. They had a chance to do it before the bye, but they wanted him to be 100%. They didn't want him to play unless he was,
Yeah, I don't know if Josh
ready.
Dobbs is good enough to
But at least
where a pro elite receiver is even meaningful.
At the very least, yeah, we've kind of proven with Aiden McDowell that Devontae Adams is more or less useless, right?
I mean, he wasn't the start of the whole year. Garoppolo is who's really to blame for that.
Yeah. But just kind of a whole mix with the Raiders just being a shit show. I think at the very least this week with Justin Jefferson, at least there's a target share that gives him an opportunity to catch the ball. With that, I think the Vikings win the game.
So we're different on that one. So let's move on to the next one, the NFC West matchup. The best team in the NFL, the 9-3, maybe not best record, but best team in the NFL, the 9-3 49ers host their division rival, the 6-6 Seahawks. 49ers 10.5-point favorites at home.
And we've said it before, when the 49ers are healthy, they are the best team in the NFL.
They proved it last week. They beat the shit out of the Eagles in Philadelphia.
Yeah, Tush Push couldn't do shit against them. There was nothing to stop.
4 straight wins for the Niners. I mean,
after some questionable losses.
Well, they started off 5-0.
Right.
Lost 3 in a row. They had a lot of injuries during that time, but lost 3 in a row. Had a bye week, since then won 4 in a row. I think they figured it out. I think this is clearing away the best team in the NFL, and they're taking on a Seahawks team who's lost 3 in a row.
Right. Seattle has the ability to score, but their defense allows points.
And just 2 weeks ago, the 49ers beat the shit out of them in Seattle.
Yeah.
On Thanksgiving Day.
The close proximity to matchups with,
I think the close proximity honestly helps the Seahawks. I don't think the Niners are going to come in and blow them out quite like they did.
No, but it's going to be a good game for the 49ers to kind of flex that the team is fully healthy. I don't think they cover
10.5 points.
I was going to say 2.5.
I think the Niners win probably by like a touchdown, like 8 or 9 points. But I got the Niners winning the game.
I also have the Niners winning the game. I think it won't be an easy victory, but I think it'll be, a touchdown.
All right, so let's move on to the next game, which at the beginning of the season, if you were to point at the most exciting, biggest game of the year, I think a lot of people, this would be a strong candidate for that game. But it turns out both teams not doing as well as we thought. Chiefs 8-4, they're still doing enough to make the playoffs, taking on the 6-6 Bills, who have been the most disappointing team in the NFL. Chiefs at home, 2.5 point favorites. I mean, this is a game where both teams coming off a loss in their last game. Both teams desperately need a win. The Chiefs to kind of continue their supremacy. Although if they're a team, if they make the playoffs, like they're still going to be favored to win every game. Taking on the Bills, who they just need to make the playoffs. They need a win. They need to win over a big team.
The Bills kind of are like a shell of their former selves. Like they've been different since.
But the thing is, they're just good enough because
injuries.
They're close in all these games and they fuck it up.
Yeah, it's like
all self-inflicted wounds.
It's almost like they've turned into the clutch level of the Chargers.
Yeah,
like this season. This season at the very least. Like I don't know if it's Josh Allen or if
then the Chargers said, "We'll see you one."
Right. Let's go even worse.
Yeah.
I don't know what but this has been a season where it seems like the teams that the very good teams last year were winning. Are the games where the very good teams last year were winning? This year, they're not.
And that's the nature of the NFL.
It changes.
So competitive and it's so hard. It changes so much. You're not going to stay long at the top.
Chiefs, of course, I think at this point they're currently ranked like 3rd overall in the NFL. Of course, they're always an elite force with Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce.
I mean, no matter what, if they make the playoffs, like
they're a contention. They're a money line favorite.
I'm still
for the
picking
Super
them
Bowl.
in every game.
Right. I agree. I think the Bills just haven't gotten back on track. I think both teams' defenses are pretty solid so far this season, but I think Kansas City holds through and gets the win.
See, I think the Bills, saying that this is a game they have to win. They know it's a game they have to win. They had a bye week. I think they're going to come out, probably have their best performance of the season. I got the Bills winning the game. I got the Bills going to 7-6. So let's move on to the next matchup. It's an AFC West matchup. I'm sorry.
NFAFC.
The 6-6 Broncos coming off a loss after a huge winning streak. How can they respond? Taking on as we said, the least clutch team in the NFL, the San Diego, now LA Chargers. I know it's been like 5 years, but I still think San Diego Chargers. 5-7 the Chargers. Last week though, coming off of a win 6-0
Yeah, like
over the
what
Patriots.
is that?
Dude, Mac Jones is so bad. I know we're not covering any of their games. Mac Jones is the
Intentionally
worst.
not covering the Patriots. Like it's hard to find anything to say about them.
2 or 3 years they've gone from the dynasty to literally the worst team in the NFL.
The Broncos, I don't know. If you're Russell Wilson, how do you go from winning 5 games in a row? So without the 5-game winning streak, you would be 1-6.
Yeah, but I mean, that's like saying without half the season.
Right. I know, but I like saying it like that.
And also, we would say without the 1-6, we'd be 5-0.
Well, there you go. Well, there you go. He threw 4 interceptions last week. Absolutely abysmal.
Texans did a great job getting to him. I just think this is going to come down to a game where
like less than 300 total passing yards.
It's going to be a Chargers game.
I think it's less than 300 total passing yards.
Chargers are going to outgain the Broncos by 100 yards but lose the game. I got the Broncos winning.
I think the Chargers are going to win this game. As much as I talk shit on their clutch level,
it's going to be down to coaching. I think Sean Payton's a better coach than Brandon Staley.
I think if it wasn't Sean Payton, this would be a battle for a coach's job. You know, this kind of game is like the turning point of this season.
I mean, it's definitely Brandon Staley's 3rd or 4th year, like
of
he's
doing
about
this.
To be fired.
Of doing
because this is one of they have a
this
very
is the
talented
worst.
roster.
They went like 10 and.
But the thing is, they have a very talented roster.
Like 13-3 one season, and it's just gone down and down and down every year since.
They blew a 28-0 lead in the playoffs last year,
and nobody's giving them 28-3 Falcons shit in the Super Bowl. They're just letting them.
Well, I mean, the Super Bowl is a whole different beast,
right? But they're 5-7 with a great team.
All right, so now let's move on to the last football game.
The main event.
The best football game of the weekend.
Probably
NFC East matchup. As we said, the Bills-Chiefs probably preseason was game of the year. This might be game of the year.
I was going to say, this might be the hottest matchup.
Well, besides last week when the Niners beat the shit out of the Eagles.
Right. This is divisional rivals. This is tight, though.
Rivals. NFC East matchup. This is one where the Cowboys.
Darrelle Revis?
The Cowboys can pull even if they win at 10-3. The 10-2 Eagles, 9-3 Cowboys. Dallas at home where they're undefeated this season.
3.5 point favorites. They're usually
usually
dog shit at home.
Not this season. 4 straight wins total. Last week, Thanksgiving night, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Thanksgiving night, beat the Seahawks. Another bird team. Bird gang.
Another bird.
They beat them in a shootout, taking on the Eagles coming off. They had a lot of close games, close wins leading up to this. They got the absolute dog piss beat out of them by the 49ers.
Yeah, it was a bad.
It's a humbling game where how are the Eagles going to respond? Are they going to respond playing their best football? Or are they going to still kind of be a step back?
Man, this is one of those games where I don't even want to watch. Just because it's like, as much as my dad's a Cowboys fan, I just can see what's going to happen to Dallas at home here. But I'm not.
Everything's pointing to the Cowboys winning this game.
Right. And what happens every time everything points to the Cowboys winning this game?
I'll tell you what, buddy. You just convinced me. I'm changing my pick. I picked the Cowboys. I've never thought about it till you said that.
Right.
This is an Eagles win all the way.
Right. I am changing my own mind here. I never thought about it. Every time I've ever thought the Cowboys were gonna win, in a matchup that was sided,
when an important game like this all points to you,
the Cowboys fuck it up.
The Cowboys are gonna fuck it up.
Yeah, I don't want to do it, but I absolutely switched to the Eagles. I think
Same, brother. Same. I'm picking the Eagles.
look, Dallas is top 10 in every category this season. It's crazy how good they've done, how efficient they've been. Lucky they're not in the playoffs right now because the Eagles are going to walk back off of the San Francisco 49ers loss, and they are about to cripple the Dallas Cowboys this game.
So we agree on that one.
I never expected that to happen. And now it's time for Stakes and Takes. We're going to recap last week's bets, last week's picks, stakes or takes, if you will, or takes or stakes, whichever way you say that. We'll give you our standings for the season, last month of November included, and we'll give you our upcoming stakes for this week.
Well, we gave you our stakes. No, we gave our takes.
We gave you our takes. We're going to give you our stakes.
Right. I tried to correct you. I'm sorry.
We'll figure it out one day. The stakes and the takes. One is bets, one is picks. Y'all tell us which. Just kidding. What's your record from last week?
Last week wasn't the best for me football-wise, surprisingly. I went 9-7 overall. 4-2 in the UFC. I was happy with my UFC picks.
Yeah, I went 4-2 as well. I think we picked the exact same there. Got the same losses.
Yeah,
Soriano
and Font.
Soriano and Rob Font, yeah.
I went 2-3 in college football. I got Oregon, Washington wrong. Washington obviously won. I picked Oregon. I got Georgia, Bama wrong.
Yeah, I got that one wrong too.
I picked Georgia. You got both of these wrong with me.
Right.
I picked Georgia. Bama obviously won. And then the one I went out on a limb, I was trying to call an upset. I thought Louisville was going to beat Florida State without their quarterback. Florida State won by double digits. Still got left out of the college football playoff. Ridiculous. But I got that one wrong.
You got to think about that. You preemptively snubbed them by just going against them.
Yeah, I think that's why I'm so adamant that they should have got in, because I did that, and look what they did. They still won. It was an ugly win, but they won by double digits. They were obviously way better than Louisville.
Right, I agree that you can't just snub them because somebody got hurt.
That's fucked up. They're 13-0.
And that's the open excuse they're trying to use is they're not the same team without Jordan.
It's not like this is Central Nebraska going 13-0 and their best player gets hurt. This is Florida State, one of the most storied programs college football.
I tell you what,
leave them out.
As soon as we put the Florida State hashtag on this video, this is going to get views because it is heinous what they're doing to them.
Yeah, it really is.
Anyway.
And then NFL, I went 3-2. My 2 losses, I picked the Broncos over the Texans. Obviously, Texans proved me wrong.
I picked the Texans there, so whoop, whoop.
And I think we both got this one wrong. We both assumed the Chiefs were going to beat the Packers. Props to the Packers. They showed out. They got the dub.
Yep. I went 4-1 on NFL. I got the Packers pick wrong. Everything else I got right. 4-2 in the UFC. 3-2 in the college football. Good thing is, I tied things back up in the picks. Christian, you are now 57-43-1. I am now 57-41-3. Got the same amount of wins, a couple less losses, but I got some pushes in there that,
it's all about the wins, baby.
It's all about the wins. Moving on to our stakes, how'd you do last week?
Considering I did average in takes, I did horrendous in stakes.
Yeah? Were they all well done?
1-4. I lost Soriano money line. He was a favorite. I lost Rob Font money line. He was a favorite. I lost Oregon Ducks money line. They were a favorite. I lost Georgia Bulldogs money line. They were a favorite. The only one I won, and thank God they showed out for me, was the San Francisco 49ers. I had their money line.
Yeah, that's a bit of a situation for you, man. That's rough.
It was tough. I'm pretty sure it cost me the lead in the takes. Stakes, I'm sorry.
It definitely that's what made us tie back up for sure. Because I went 4-1, 2 weeks in a row, 4-1. It really helped push me back, put me back in the mix. Otherwise, you were just going to keep walking away with it. For the total season standings, it brings both of us up to 153 for the wins. I have 81 losses. You have 82 losses. I have 4 pushes. You have 3. So we're still neck and neck up to the very, very end.
We got 2 weeks left.
2 weeks left of the whole first season 0.
And both stakes and takes are up for the taking for either one of us. Literally tied, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, it's within a pick. So we got to figure something out to kind of decide this at the very end of the season. What do you have for UFC takes this week?
My UFC takes this week, I
got 2.
I also have 2. One of them got canceled. I was planning on going Nasamito money line. Obviously, that he pulled out of the fight. Instead, I'm going Song Yadong. I know he's a big favorite, -400. I don't quite like the odds, but I'm trying to pick winners right now.
Yeah, just trying to get an edge to win. I get it.
I'm getting Song Yadong, and I'm Nasrat Haqparast. Haqparast. I always have trouble saying his name until I get it. Once I get it,
it's
I can
locked.
say it. But I'm taking Nasrat. I got his money line at -220.
Nice. My 2, I'm taking Jung Young Park money line. I think on that one, I think with the mix of the ground game, he's going to win. My other UFC fight, I don't know the odds. They didn't release anything yet because he's a late notice replacement. I'm taking Tim Elliott money line to beat Su Mudaerji for late notice.
Not bad. Are we both taking the college game?
I'm not taking the college game this week.
I'm taking Army -148.
Army money line for Christian.
I believe in the Black Knights.
I have 3 NFL bets this week.
I obviously have 2.
I have the Detroit Lions money line.
What's the odds you got?
I think they're going to win. Let's see. My odds here. Damn, of course it's the first page, not the last page. My odds here, -185 for the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I had -170, but I like that pick.
My next pick is going to be the Vikings money line. They're actually going to be a +155 underdog.
See, I have them at -162.
That might have updated since I wrote it. I think it's going to kind of flux. I think it's going to end up being more or less of a pick 'em for the Vikings. They could lose, they could win. Both teams have their struggles. And my last one is going to be a Chiefs money line. It's a kind of a toss-up with the Bills. It's a -140 is what I have as the money line here. I think the Chiefs are going to win. They don't usually lose 2 in a row. Even though it's kind of a push for the Bills, they need the win here. I think the Chiefs are going to pull it out.
I got 2 NFL bets. I got Texans -298 is what I got it at. So I got the Houston Texans going to New York, beating the Jets. And then I changed this one late too. I got the Eagles money line +154 over the Cowboys.
Nice. You have an upset for us this week?
So my upset of the week, the Eagles could be it, but I wrote somebody before I switched my pick to them. I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills +120. Going to Kansas City, getting the dub. That's my upset of the week.
Bills +120. My upset of the week is Jamie Malarkey. I think he's going to beat Nasrat Haqparast. I think he has, what it takes at that +170 money line, with the diversity and his skill set to take the win.
I think that about wraps up our stakes and takes for the week. Thanks for listening to episode 25 of Split Decision. Check us out next week. We're going to review UFC Vegas 83, take a look ahead to Week 15 in the NFL, and also look ahead to the final pay-per-view UFC event of the year, UFC 296, Colby Covington, Leon Edwards.